Hello there, 10th graders. Let's get started here. We talked about the Roman Empire. We talked about the Republic. Last week we talked about the Roman emperors. Now it's time to talk about the decline and fall of the Roman Empire. Mrs. Knudsen is always saying what's going up must come down at some point. And so this is about the decline and fall of the Roman Empire and how they inevitably and invariably fall to pieces. So, the main thing we're going to tackle today is what factors led to the collapse of the Roman Empire, and what effect does this fall of Rome have on the Mediterranean world? And we will talk about that extensively. But for right now, we're going to do a warm-up question, which is in the cartoon on the next slide. Identify as many Roman achievements as you can. And so we're going to pop over there and take a look at this, and we're going to take a minute. How many Roman achievements do you see here in this picture? And we'll put that up, and that'll be a question that'll pop in here shortly. Right. So let's talk about the Roman Republican Empire. Let's do a quick overview, just a quick review of what we got. Rome starts as a city-state, right? They're heavily influenced by Greek culture, and they by 509 BCE, Rome is ruled by elected senators instead of a king, and they serve in what is then the Roman Republic. And you can see here the period of the Roman Republic, which lasts for almost 500 years. During the Republic, Rome expands by defeating Carthage in the Punic Wars. Remember, we talked about Carthage. Carthage gets beat up, and now Rome is in charge. And the Republic then starts to weaken due to corruption, civil wars. You have the assassination of Julius Caesar, and Julius Caesar's nephew takes over. After Julius Caesar's death, Rome becomes an empire ruled by the Emperor Augustus, right? And this is Julius Caesar's nephew, right? And then under Augustus, Rome enters an era of peace and prosperity, which is known as the Pax Romana, or the Roman peace. And that lasts for a little over 200 years. And after that, the empire begins to decline, right? And it's finally conquered in 476 AD, right? Or Common Era. So how does the decline and fall of the Roman Empire happen? Well, it happens gradually, and there are sort of three stages to it. First stage, you have these internal problems: politics, the economy, the military, and this begins this era of decline. The second stage, you have this brief period of revival where you have like emperors Diocletian, Constantine. They are enacting reforms. They're trying to keep the empire together. Some of these reforms are actually going to help bring about the end of the empire, though. And then third stage, you have repeated invasions by Germanic or barbarian tribes who would lead to the conquest of Rome, bringing the Roman Empire to an end, right? So these Germanic barbarian tribes are going to be the ones who bring down the Roman Empire. So let's take a look at the first stage. Rome's internal problems, political and social. What do we got? Well, you have the Roman road that's linking the empire, right? We talked about that. But the empire becomes too big for one person to control. One emperor to control, right? It gets big enough that different territories in the empire start demanding their own sort of independence, right? So and Rome is having a hard time exerting control over all of them. So, and not only that, but emperors after the Pax Romana are weak generally. So they're not able to maintain control. And citizens are experiencing a loss of confidence, patriotism, and loyalty to the Roman government. So these internal problems then are also economic. Outside groups are disrupting trade, and poor harvests have led to food shortages. So Rome is having a trade imbalance. They're buying more than they can produce. Their governments are raising taxes and minting new coins, which is leading to inflation. And the economic decline is leaving many Romans very, 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 very poor, right? They don't have money, or the money they do have is worthless. So militarily, there are some problems too. And you can see that little pointer up there going towards Germany. Germanic tribes from Northern Europe outside of the Roman Empire are gaining in strength, right? Rome's internal problems militarily as well. The Roman military is growing to be ineffective due to poor leadership. Generals have their own interests, right? They're challenging the authority of the emperors, uh, and to save money, Romans are finding that it's cheaper to hire foreign soldiers instead of employing more Romans. So then you have your army made up of mercenaries. Well, mercenaries will fight for you as long as you're winning. But as soon as it looks like you're going to lose, the mercenaries will probably bounce. So mercenaries, right, are soldiers for hire. So multiple causes, and we can take a look here, right? You have political causes. You have social causes, economic factors, and military factors, and all of these contribute to the immediate cause, which is invasion by Germanic tribes and the Huns. So remember, we have the 3 stages. First stage, internal problems with politics, the economy, and the military begins an era of decline. Let's talk about the second stage now. And that's that brief period of revival as Diocletian and Constantine enact these reforms. However, some of these reforms, right, we talked about, are going to help bring the empire to an end. So, starting off, Emperor Diocletian. In 284 Common Era, right, Emperor Diocletian comes into power, and he begins a series of reforms that temporarily halt Rome's decline. To fix the problems of the military, he doubles the size of the Roman army. Roman army isn't big enough to maintain control over Rome. Well, we'll double the size of the army. And to help the economy and stop inflation, he starts fixing the prices of certain goods. You cannot charge more for certain things, right? Fixes the prices, basically says, nope, the price of grain does not go higher than this point. In an attempt to do something about the lack of loyalty and patriotism of many Roman citizens, Diocletian presents himself as this godlike leader, and he starts to try to boost the prestige of the position of emperor. So he claims to be descended from the gods. He has numerous ceremonies to glorify himself, so that people in the empire are not loyal to their local generals. They're not loyal to their local governors. He wants people in the empire to be loyal to him, to be loyal to the emperor himself. And his most important reform, though, is that he divides the empire into 2 different parts. There's the Eastern Empire and the Western Empire, right? So instead of Rome controlling everything, he splits it into 2 pieces. And these 2, the Western Empire speaks mostly Latin, and then the Eastern Empire speaks mostly Greek. French, of course, is a Romance language, from Latin. So is Spanish. So is Italian. And if you look over in the Greek-speaking areas, right, Greece, of course, is still there. So Diocletian's most important reform then is splitting that into the Western and Eastern empires. And the Roman Empire is then divided by language, right? Now you have the Latin-speaking Western half and the Greek-speaking Eastern half. However, the empire is also divided by wealth. The East is way richer than the West, and that's because it has major cities, true, but it also has massive trade centers. If you want to trade with the Eastern powers, with Persia, if you want to trade with India, if you want to trade with China, we're going to talk a lot about that after this chapter, then you are in a position of advantage if you're in the East. The people who are in the West, to trade with those places, have to go through the eastern portion of the empire. Diocletian's reasons for the division are that he believes that the empire has grown too big and too complex for one person to lead, right? He thinks that you need to split the empire. So what he does is he takes the eastern half himself and he appoints a co-emperor to run the West. However, Diocletian maintains overall control, right? So he's running the eastern half himself. He has somebody else running the western half. And then we got Constantine. Constantine is a pretty interesting character. After Diocletian's death, there's a massive power struggle among several men who want to rule the empire, and emerging victorious and becoming the new emperor of the West is this fellow Constantine. Constantine continues many of Diocletian's reforms, but he reverses the biggest reform. He reclaims the East, and the Roman Empire once again has a single ruler, right? So he doesn't keep it divided, he brings it all back together, and he does some other changes too. he wants to unify Rome, and he recognizes that Christianity is on the rise. It can't be destroyed. So instead of persecuting Christians, as a lot of other emperors have done, he makes it a legal religion of the empire. In fact, he converts to Christianity himself. And after the emperor after him will go on to take Christianity and make it the official religion of the Roman Empire. And this is going to have massive, unexpected consequences. And maybe the biggest thing he does is in 330 Common Era, Constantine changes the capital of the Roman Empire. He moves it from Rome, and he puts it in a Greek city called Byzantium, which becomes modern day Istanbul or Constantinople. So Byzantium, which then becomes Constantinople, which is modern day Istanbul, and you can see the old capital of Rome, right, in Italy, in the boot, and the new capital of Byzantium, which is becomes the home of the new capital of the entire Roman Empire. So now, given and this is a big piece, right? Let's put on our geographer hats here. By having control of this city, right, and because of its location on the Bosporus Strait, the city is also super easily defended from northern invaders, right? So northern invaders, well, they can run down into Rome. They cannot run into Byzantium because they'll have to cross the Bosporus Strait. And this is actually one of the hardest places to assault of any place on Earth. Byzantium, Constantinople, Istanbul are extremely defensible cities because to siege this city, you would need two fleets, one to hold the Black Sea, one to hold the Bosphorus Straits. You would need two armies, one to hold here in the Balkans and another to hold in Turkey. And if you don't have all four of those, two armies and two navies, you cannot siege that city because they'll just bring goods in from the other side. And Byzantium, so it's not just defensible though; it's also the center of trade between East and West. Anything that's coming through into the Black Sea has to go through there. So they control sea trade, overland trade as well would have to go through here. So really massively important city, and moving the capital there is not a bad idea. Now, when it's constructed, Byzantium had a strong Greek and Christian influence. The new capital is soon protected by massive walls, and later is the home to many great new structures that are built in the Roman style. And here you can see an artist's rendition of Byzantium. And it eventually takes on a new name, Constantinople, which then, of course, if you think about it, is the city of Constantine, right? So, after Diocletian and Constantine die, the eastern half of the empire continues to grow wealthier, continues to grow more powerful. The problem, of course, is the West. With all that focus on the East, the western half is going to decline. And there are a lot of reasons why the western side of the Roman Empire is once again sliding into decline. You have political corruption, you have this weakening economy, you have terrible plagues, and also Roman citizens are less concerned with the fate of the Roman Empire, more preoccupied with thoughts of the afterlife, right? So this dominance of Christianity, is cited as a reason why people in the Roman Empire are less concerned with the glory of Rome and more concerned with their own salvation. And then lastly, we have these Germanic groups, the Visigoths, the Ostrogoths, the Lombards, the Saxons, the Angles. And so all of these things are making the Western Roman Empire weak, and they're vulnerable, they're open to attack. So these Germanic crews come rolling in, and that's going to give us to our third stage. And we will talk about that next week, right? That's those Germanic barbarian tribes that are going to lead to the conquest of Rome and bring the Roman Empire, at least in the West, to an end. The Eastern Roman Empire will last a good deal longer. So if you have any questions or concerns, or you just want to talk, you can find me in my office hours, 10 o'clock in the morning and 2 o'clock in the afternoon for 1 hour, both times. Feel free to pop in and say hi. Good chatting with you. And do well on the quiz. Talk to you later.